name is Heather McG, and this is the Happily Never After, a podcast that explores how life's endings can lead to a personal breakthrough. Because sometimes the end is just the beginning. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Happily Never After, a podcast where we explore how life's endings can lead to a new beginning. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to rate, review, follow us wherever you are listening or watching the show today. My guest today is Andrea Rappaport. Andrea is the co-host of the super popular divorce podcast, How Not to Suck at Divorce. I was a guest at one time. It was a whole lot of fun. They have a really great show. She's been featured on News Nation, Today Show, The Tamron Hall Show, as well as numerous appearances on local TV. Andrea uses her comedy skills and the money her father spent on voice lessons. You do have a really great voice, dance lessons, and the Second City Conservatory to help divorcing individuals exhale and feel less alone. Now, after leaving an abusive marriage when her boys were 2 and 4, Andrea is an advocate, but she's now happily remarried. That's a few years behind her at this point. And when she's not on the air or running her marketing firm, wow, you are busy. She can be seen hunting for discount fashion at TJ Maxx or Marshall's. Andrea, I'm so happy to welcome you to the show.
Hey, it was really fun hearing that bio read out loud. I'm like smiling and nodding. I'm like, that's right. That's right.
It's always I feel like the intro to these shows often are quite a good little self-esteem booster for most people. It's like, oh, I feel good now.
If they're so awkward writing, when
Mhm.
when you're tasked with writing your own bio, it's such like a cringeworthy moment. You're like, oh, I don't like saying this about myself. But then when someone reads it, you're like, hell yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Good. I have accomplished some things in my life. I'm pretty cool. All right. So this show is all about how life's endings can lead to a new beginning. Now, Andrea, you have been through some endings in your life. Can you talk about maybe the ones that have changed you the most?
Okay. So I think that if we go in order of big events, the first big ending would be the relationship with my mother. The second big ending, wow, how is it? What time is it? It's like 3 minutes into recording, and I'm already having feelings.
We're going to start crying. That's
Jesus,
scheduled for
how's
minute
this
5.
go? I didn't know I was signing up for being emotional. Ugh. Okay, going back, let's see. Mother. Number 2 would be having walking away from my acting and comedy career. The third one would be my first marriage.
Those are some big ones.
Those are some big ones, yeah.
Now, something Andrea and I have done a little bit of talking off camera, off air, about our childhoods, and some of the ways that has impacted us as adults. And I know that's been something that played a role for both of us. Can you talk to us about your relationship with your mom, where that went, how that went, and what that brought you to?
I can. This is a topic that I am getting my sea legs with. So bear with me because I think this is the first time I've talked about it on a podcast. It was a very unhealthy relationship because my mother is sadly a very unhealthy and unwell individual. And it is impossible to have a healthy relationship with somebody who's not healthy. It does not mean that my mom didn't love me. I still believe that my mother loved me to the very best of her ability. And with that, I believe that her 100% would not have ever been enough for me. On the outside, I had a really nice life. I grew up upper middle class, in, really nice neighborhood. I had nice things. Nobody would have ever suspected that my upbringing was as challenging as it was. And it wasn't until unpacking it in therapy years later and looking at why I gravitated towards a life on stage. I was always hunting for attunement, which I never knew that word until I was older. But attunement, for those people who haven't been through thousands of dollars of therapy, it's emotional attention. So when you don't get any kind of emotional attention because mom or dad or whoever's raising you is not able to give that, either they don't want to or they're not actually able, you tend to hunt for attention, hoping that that'll fill that void. And for me, obviously, I wanted attention. I started performing, but it was bigger than that. The What I got in growing up doing theater was I got a family, and I lived to go to rehearsal every day. I lived to be performing, not so much because I liked the sound of the applause, because I craved what happened in the dressing rooms, backstage, the camaraderie. My favorite part of performing was what happened in that hour from mic check to going on stage, right? Like, just being with other people, signing in, warming up, making jokes, like, have that was what kept me going. And the worst part of my day was going home afterwards. Um, and I think that, I could getting into, like, more details about, like, everything that went on in my home. It's probably not something that I'm, like, ready to uncover just yet. But it left me feeling very scared, very lost, very empty, and without really a role model for what does a healthy relationship look like.
Now, something you said and you just like clicked with me because this was something that for me, bad day in therapy, where, because I went into theater as well. And the therapist, and I'm curious if you relate to this, it sounds like you might. The therapist asked me, she said, "Well, did you really like therapy or did you just do it to get your parents to pay attention to you?"
Therapy or theater?
Theater.
Oh,
Like, do you feel
yeah.
like I know
So
you had a whole beginning career in that area. Do you think you actually wanted to do that or do you think it was coming from a different place?
I think a few things about it. I think that I actually loved performing, but I think, again, what I loved most of all was everything that came with doing theater. Like, now, because I'm slightly healthier, if somebody said to me, "Okay, Andrea, you haven't acted in a bunch of years. Do you want to go do a community theater production of Fiddler on the Roof?" I'd be like, No, not at all. I'd rather, like, no, I wanna go buy cute shoes. I don't have desire, but I will sing you the entire score of Fiddler on the Roof in my car while we drive around town doing funny, goofy things, because it's the high that I get from that experience, not the high for I don't need the applause and the attention and all of that stuff. So I don't know, and I also think that I think that I recognized at a very young age that something was wrong with mommy. So I never chased her for love or attunement. I detached. That is a big problem that I have now, because it is very, very easy for me to detach and walk away from friendships and from relationships, because I am a Band-Aid ripper offer. If I and to my detriment. I'm terrified of conflict, and I won't engage in a conflict with a friend. It's easier for me to just say, "All right, then fuck off, we'll never talk again." Because I don't have those conflict resolution skills, because I saw so early on with my own mom that it can't be addressed, it can't be helped. This person is who it is. But then something got in my brain. It's hard for me to see the difference between people that who can actually change, and in places where you do actually need to work out a problem. Does that make sense? It's
Yeah.
weird.
Yes. No, I get all of that. How did this, when it came to choosing a partner in romantic relationships, how did that impact you?
Well, I was drawn to crazy. I wouldn't say that conflict felt comfortable, because it wasn't that. It was that somebody with a lot of pain and a dark past and issues felt like home. I did not think that I could fix them. I didn't have that kind of mentality. I think that I just thought, like, well, that's maybe what I deserve. I think that it's also, though, wrapped up in what happened in my early 20s with my acting career. I think that I had some traumatic experiences with my career, and I think that that, coupled with my childhood, primed me to believe very little in myself and my ability to be loved, to be deserving of love, and I started settling. So I think it's a few things that came together. And unfortunately for me, it kept stacking on top of each other until my life just completely spiraled out of control. I said before, like I'm a band-aid ripper offer. Well, in my marriage, I did eventually rip off the band-aid, but I let it get to the point where I was like bleeding internally and almost like dying that
Yeah.
I decided that I had enough. So it's weird. It's very it's so weird the things that we tell ourselves and like what we choose to believe.
Well, it's kind of funny. When we're talking about ourselves and when our life is spinning out of control, it's kind of funny. The only person that can save you is you, but you are also the one who is spinning out of control. So it's like you're looking to the least qualified person to pull you out, which is just, there's no other way out. But it's just kind of when I think about it, it's a miracle that anybody makes it off the bathroom floor. Bathroom floor moment, as we have spoken about.
You're in the eye of the storm, and it's really hard to direct the ship when you're in the eye of the hurricane, right? But you have to do it. But you're drowning. And there's literally like water splashing everywhere. It's dark outside, you can't see. And yet, but you know that it has to be you. And I don't know. People always ask me, like Andrea, when you were at your very worst, because I talk about that pretty publicly about when I got really, really sick from a pretty bad panic disorder in my marriage and what happened, right? And how did you get to that point where you're like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I have to leave. And what's weird is I can speak to it with such clarity now. But then what's wild to me is when I go back and I look at the fact that I willingly entered a marriage where I knew that the person I was marrying, much like my mother, did not have the ability to love me the way that I deserve to be loved. My first husband did not change. He is the exact same person he was when he and I started dating. He and I were together for 12 years, married for 6, and it was never good. There were never good times. We both, I think, settled. I don't think he was ever physically attracted to me. I mean, I know as much because we talked about it a lot. We went to couples therapy almost from the beginning of our relationship
It's a
because
bad
we were,
sign.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Not for me though. I'm like, this looks great. Um,
She wants to work on our relationship. We've been dating for 2 weeks.
hater. Um, I mean, I had therapists that would look at me in the middle of these sessions like, "The hell is wrong with you? Like, this
Yeah.
person is telling you, Andrea, he is not attracted to you." Now, but he would say things like, "I'm not attracted to you because you're just not the kind of person somebody would be attracted to." And like, okay, and that is like a dick thing to say, but what's crazy is that I would sit there and be like, "I get it."
All right. So, Andrea, what you're describing is it's shocking to me because the person I'm looking at is very different from who you're describing. When you think back to that time in your life, what you were putting up with, what you were accepting, the fact that you chose to marry this person that you knew, you already knew at that point that this wasn't maybe what it was supposed to be. What would you say to that person? Like, what do you think in looking back on that and how far back on the path you used to be?
Well, I think that one of the problems is we get married before we know who we are and we know what we really want and we know our like worth as a human being. So I think like that's number 1 is I think that we all need a certain amount of like personal accomplishments in our bag before we're ready to like merge our life like with somebody else. I also think that unfortunately we as a society, we don't understand that getting married is a business agreement. Like getting married it is. It's business. It's not about love. It's just a relationship. But a marriage is a legal transaction. And if you're already sharing your life with someone who's mentally and emotionally like unwell and you're already trusting your heart with them, like, okay, well, like that's another story. Like, I wouldn't do that. But if you're going to agree to get into like a legally binding agreement with the person who is not well and who you have all those feelings inside of you, all those little like parts of your body that are raising these red flags, like, I wouldn't do that. This doesn't feel right. If you're pushing all of those down to the bottom and you're still gonna sign on the dotted line, don't. That's the thing that I see, like, different now. Now the person that I am sees though recognizes those flags as, like, little I'm not a blessings kinda girl. I think it's, like, the Jew in me, like, we don't typically throw around words like blessing, but, like, I see it
Mhm.
as a blessing, right? I
Yeah.
see those little red flags as, like, people who want to help you. I actually it reminds me of a time when I was married in my first marriage, and I was really sick, and I was in the hospital and I was having a panic attack. And the ER doctor said to me, he was after they were giving me medication, he was trying to just be nice and talk to me while the medication kicked in. And he said, do you know that it's very common for doctors when they're going through residency to have panic attacks? And I'm like, no, what do you mean? I'm shaking. He's like, well, and he's telling me that it's because of all the things that they're pushing away that happen to them, things that they've seen that they've never seen before. You're pushing things aside, you're pushing things aside, you're acting like you're fine. And then the panic attack is the way of your body getting your attention saying, I don't think we're fine. Like, you have to stop ignoring the problem. And so he looked at me and he's like, so whatever's going on in your life right now, and I don't know you, but stop ignoring the problem.
Wow. He
I'm like,
really went the extra mile to talk to you about
oh,
what was going on.
I know. I'm like, thanks, buddy.
Do you feel like the panic attacks you were having, do you feel like they were coming, cuz it's kind of complicated to tell because a lot of times it's a mix between something that's pathological and then also the circumstances of our life. For you, were the panic and anxiety attacks you were experiencing, which sounded debilitating, was it coming from your life, or where were those things coming from for you?
So mine are it's very very clear. So the way that I understand it, and I'm not a doctor, but I understand that an anxiety attack tends to be when your body is very overwhelmed with something that could be happening or is currently unfolding. A panic attack is typically when you're processing from the past. And I am a past processor. Just like how I've said, like, I'm a Band-Aid ripper offer because I
Mhm.
tend to move at the speed of light, I process later. So I was pretending like I was fine. I was pretending like the abuse that I was enduring in my marriage, which I did not have a physically abusive marriage. It was mentally, emotionally, financially, all that kind of stuff. I just acted like it wasn't happening. And I kept trying to make somebody happy who didn't have the ability to be happy, certainly not with me. And I would wake up in the middle of the night with basically my body telling me, like, Andrea, you are not okay. Like, these things that you are going through every day, these things that this person whom you stupidly agreed to get into this business relationship with of marriage and had two babies with is killing you with the way that the things that he says to you over and over again, with the lack of any kind of like physical affection, with the fact that you're constantly told that you're not good enough, that you're not attractive, that you won't that you're not good enough for them. I mean, we were together for like I said, 12 years. I think we had sex 10 times in 12 years.
Oh my gosh. That had to have been an awakening, like, when you moved on from that marriage and rejoined life, or really started life for the first time, it sounded like.
It was tough. Yes, it was a very, like, emotional experience to realize. I think there's also, like, a lot of shame in talking about that stuff, right? Because you think, like, "Well, why does that matter? What are you, some kind of whore?" Like, like, "What do you need?" But just because
You're
she
like,
wanted your
"Yes, I
attention.
need more of it in my
Yes,
life."
I am. No, but, like, but I don't think we talk enough about what a sexless relationship will do to someone. And and how because when you don't have that kind of connection and when you are in a relationship with somebody who constantly tells you that they don't want that with you and you're so uncomfortable and confused and you don't know whether it's because you're not enough and do I need to change my hair? Do I need to go and lose more weight? Do I need like am I, it really it makes you crazy, and like I said, there are so many other things beyond that that were wrong in my first marriage, but, certainly now I look at my life and, you know, those scars do not go away quickly. It's not the kind of thing that a little bit of Neosporin and a few therapy sessions take care of. I still have moments now in a very healthy and happy marriage where that little unhealthy girl inside of me creeps out and thinks like, is everything really bad here too? Because
Yeah,
I don't have those skills. I wasn't taught those skills
right.
on how you resolve things, on how if somebody doesn't agree with you, it doesn't mean that they hate you and think that you're worthless and they're not going to like threaten to leave you like I was used to hearing. Um that trauma and again like I hate using phrases that I feel like are so overused,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah, I have a list of things I'm
trauma.
like narcissist. Are they diagnosed narcissist or are they just selfish? Everyone's a
Right.
narcissist apparently.
I did a post once on social media that I'm like, they're only a narcissist if they come from the south of
I think I
France.
saw that one.
Everyone else is just a general asshole. Yeah, we overuse those terms a lot. But I I think that we all want those terms because we feel more comfortable when we can go in a box, right?
Yeah, when you
This
can name it.
I Yeah, I have trauma because I was married to a narcissist, right? Because then it's like, okay, now I can go on TikTok and type in the words trauma healing and
Right.
all the problems will be solved.
Right.
And that's just not the way that it works. But
When
yeah,
Well, I'm curious, when you were in the middle, well, it's kind of a two-part question. When you were in the middle of your first marriage, did you recognize it as abuse or was there a day where you had like a light bulb moment of figuring out what was going on?
I did not recognize it as abuse for a very long time. I had moments where I remember, I mentioned before that I had 2 little kids, so I was in these baby groups with other moms, and we would go out to dinner, and I would find myself pretending to relate to these women who were talking about their lives and the things that their husbands and them would do together, and I would sit there and I had those moments of like, I wonder if something's wrong in my life because I'm scared of my husband, and I don't get the feeling that these women are scared, and I would think like I would, and on the outside, my ex-husband came off as like very meek,
Yeah.
very agreeable, and nobody really saw what was going on in our home. And so I had moments where I'm like, this, I don't think that this feels good. But it wasn't until I got really, really sick and I had a few doctors say to me, when we were trying to get to the root of what was going on, when we discovered that I had a panic disorder, it was not clear. At first, all we knew is that I would wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, sweating and vomiting. Those were the first symptoms. So, naturally, we start testing all these different parts of my body. Is it your gallbladder? Is it this? Is it that? What's going on with Andrea? Why is she getting so sick? And it wasn't until months and months later where I had a doctor say, you know what? We're going to take all inflammatories out of your diet because I have an idea. I'm like,
Okay.
okay. So he took all inflammatories out of my diet. And he said, come back to me after 6 weeks of doing it. Well, after doing that, I stopped vomiting and I just started shaking at 3 o'clock in the morning. And so then I had all these different symptoms. And I went into, I think it was urgent care at one day, and I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with me, but I can't stop shaking. And And that's when it became clear that there was something psychological going on. It wasn't like medical, it was like there's something going on in your brain.
Yeah.
That was when I got back into therapy. I started seeing a psychiatrist to get on medication to stop shaking when this would happen. But that's when I really started looking at what's going on. How what am I going to do? Because during that phase, it got very dark, very scary. I started coming up with all of these theories as to why I was falling apart. I started coming up with all of these weird quirks, like I wasn't going to eat past 5 p.m. every day. Every night I had to be home by 8 p.m. Every night by 9, I had to be in bed with the covers pulled up to my chest, and I had to have House Hunters on TV in order for me to hopefully sleep without having a panic attack. Um, and I wasn't living, I was just clinging.
Yeah, that sounds terrible.
And that went on for a while, and then it wasn't I had one night that I talk about pretty publicly that was like the turning point for me when I realized, "Oh, I'm not safe here, I gotta go."
Yeah.
So, after that, that's when, like, I really knew that this marriage was probably gonna kill me. I started blacking out. I would get so sick from, like, vomiting, I would actually, like, lose consciousness. And I would fall, and it was always in the bathroom, so I'd fall back and hit my head. Um, and after one time of being brought to the ER, you know when they kick your spouse out of the room and start asking you the "Are you safe?" questions.
Yeah, that somebody they're picking up on what's going on maybe better than you were.
Whether you want to or not, here you are. When your life starts looking like a Lifetime television for women movie, that's when you know, yeah, major thumbs down moment. That's when you're like, "Uh-oh. Huh."
All right, so you come to that end, you make the
Mhm,
decision to leave your marriage, you get
mhm.
divorced. What does rebuilding look like? Because that had to have been such an intimidating, and I guess I say this from a point of shared experience because I know for me it was a huge undertaking. What was it like for you to start rebuilding your life? How did you do that?
Well, I think it's like building a home after you burn your house down. You have to go and get the foundation. Like, you gotta go and lay the foundation of, like, what you want your life to be like. Now, and this is why I have my own podcast, I fucked up. Hopefully, we can say that on your show. Sorry if
Yes,
we
you
can't.
can. All good.
Beep. I fucked things up big time when I got divorced because, I ripped off a Band-Aid and I got really bad legal advice because I was scared and desperate, and spoiler alert, don't make the best decisions when you're scared and desperate. And because I waited for so long, I endured and I endured and I endured. And then when I was literally falling apart and in a hospital, I'm like, "Oh, I think I need to get a divorce." Right?
Way past the point when you should have yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm like asking the janitor mopping the floors for advice. I'm like, "Excuse me, sir. Do you know any good lawyers?" Um, he didn't. But I made a lot of mistakes and it cost me a lot of heartache, a lot of money. It hurt my kids a lot. And so rebuilding for me was funky. I moved on like romantically very quickly, and that's not typical. But my husband, I actually met immediately after leaving the house. Actually, that's not even true.
Is he
I went
waiting on the
on.
corner for you? He was like, "I'm your second
Okay,
husband
spoiler
waiting
alert.
for
It
you."
was the janitor in the hospital.
He was the doctor. He was in the hospital as you decided to leave.
Yeah. I actually, when I decided that I was leaving, and I actually had told my husband that I wanted a divorce and that this was done. My husband was like not very emotional about it. Like I think he was I don't really know what was going on his end, but he was just like, "Okay." Like he's a strange guy. Like he actually asked me for an exit interview. And it's this
You're like, "Do not recommend."
like 0
actually.
stars. I don't know. Like what? Anyway, he's a quirky guy himself. But so when that was done, I got online immediately. And a lot of people would tell you not to do that. In fact, my podcast co-host cringes when I say that because she's like, fuck, do not tell people you did that because you should not do that. Well, I did it. And I don't know why I did it. I think I wanted to feel reassured that I wouldn't be alone for the rest of my life. I also think I loved the entertainment of looking at dating profiles online. The comedian in me found it.
There's some very entertaining, profiles, I will say. I had a whole album on my phone of all the weird ones that I came
We
across.
all do. I mean, it was the fets that was the I genuinely think I got on partially for, like, the sport to kinda, like, distract myself, right?
Yeah,
And I think it was, like, 5 days after I got on Bumble, I came across, Steve's profile, and and I don't know how it worked. I don't know how I was in such a dark place because, again, typically it does not work out that way.
yeah,
But we we started seeing each other and haven't stopped. and
great.
um and we got married. We got married and blended our families, and this person has been very supported supporting, and somehow, and again, this is the tricky part, I was able to personally evolve and go through my own stuff and did not drag him along for a lot of that. We didn't live together obviously for a very long time. I was able, I mean, I had lots of time by myself. I went through all of the scary painful moments of like not being with your kids and being totally alone and figuring out what am I going to do? Who am I outside of being a mommy? That was probably the only hard part of me getting divorced was my kids because I wasn't emotionally attached to my first
Yeah,
husband. Um it was just a bad agreement. The kid part absolutely devastated me and was the most painful thing. I think because I didn't know how you do this. Like I didn't understand how you could have a baby and then one day sign a legal document agreeing to days where you have this baby and days where
right.
you don't.
Yeah.
It
Do
made
you
me angry and I lost my mind.
well, especially when you're leaving due to abuse?
Right. It felt very unfair. It felt wrong. And what's very challenging about our system, especially where you and I live in Illinois, um, mental and emotional abuse is a very gray area. It is
Yeah, I was told they don't
very,
care. And they
they,
said unless someone shows up at your house threatening to kill you or puts their hands on you, they don't care.
and it is because they don't have the bandwidth to care, quite frankly. Now that I host a show that has a lot of legal insight from my partner, I'm able to see why they can't. They just don't. They are inundated with people getting punched in the face and broken
Yeah,
ribs and threatened that like they're like, we're sorry that this person is tormenting you. And we're sorry for the cases where children are being tormented mentally and emotionally, but we can't do anything about it. They
yeah,
don't
no
have the,
bandwidth.
and I think what's also hard is like if we try to build that infrastructure, I don't even know how that starts. Like we were talking, you were asking me about how do you rebuild your life? Like I would love to fix the problem in that system. Like how do I help this system rebuild to actually help more families and other children who are in the middle of a really high conflict situation because you've got some unhealthy people divorcing each other. I was not the healthiest person when I mean, I like I said, I made a lot of mistakes. Some of the mistakes I made are embarrassing, some of the ways that I behaved and the things that I did because you're at your worst.
Well, I think so many people you're touching on something that I think almost everyone who has gone through a divorce goes through, and really through a lot of situations like these that might be adjacent. 'Cause you feel so much shame and you feel so embarrassed about the things you did, but it's like your life just fell apart. What do you think, you're gonna walk out of the house and be perfect and amazing and everything's all good just by the act of walking out of the house? No, it takes years of really hard work to get to a good place.
And we're always evolving. Like, we're always trying to get better. And I think what's really hard is that we live in a world where we all want finished products, right? Those goddamn before and after pictures,
Yeah.
right?
People love
And
it. Yeah.
right? But like there's nothing finished. Like there's not like this was Andrea before and now look at me after. Like
Oh, my gold star.
I'm still working on it. Like any day now. Every day I'm trying to be a little bit healthier, a little bit happier. I still have panic attacks. I still have panic attacks. Do you know how frustrating that is? When you look on paper at everything in your life and you're like, well, why are you still upset? Well, guess what, motherfucker? I still had these experiences in my past that sometimes still come back and haunt you at 3 o'clock in the morning. And because it's in our body, it's just living in us. And yes, it's not as frequent as it used to be. And typically, it's when I'm reminded of something, like if there's a particularly challenging day with my ex husband and the kids, or if there's some other things going on in my world that are like very painful and are a nod at something from my past, right? That's when you have it. But we're never done.
No. Well, and 2, there's something you mentioned I kinda wanna loop back to. You were talking about how, how your podcast partner would cringe, be like, "Don't tell people you got out there dating right away." But that is pretty common. Like, for me, I saw 2 kinds of people. People that, like, waited, like, a year or 2 to start dating, which, wow. And the
Yeah.
second sort that, like, get right back out there. I was the second sort.
Yeah.
Immediately started dating, lots of dumpster fire dating. My partner was not sitting on the corner waiting for me. Mine took about 2 and a half years to show up on my case. But the way I remember, my friends were horrified. They're like, just sit there. Just sit there. Don't be trying to date. Just like process what's happened to you. Try to be alone." And the thing that I didn't have the words to explain to them back then, for me, when you have been so starved for love, for positive attention, when when you've been told you're like a piece of gum in the street for so long, you are desperate for some sort. And I'm not saying this is healthy and good, but it's just the reality of the situation. You want some attention, you want some validation. And that's why there's the whole stereotype of wild divorcees out there on the dating scene.
Yeah. It's human nature to want to be wanted. And I think for me, because I would always say, like, I didn't have a real marriage.
Yeah.
Like, we were technically married, but like we didn't do things together, just the two of us. I was scared a lot of the time, terrified of what version of this person was going to come through the door. Would he speak to me that day? Would he not? Would I get berated on the car ride home from the grocery store because I spent too much money on something that he did not approve of? Would I, like
Yeah.
whatever it was. And so when it's funny how on so many levels I was ready to date and I really like welcomed it. And then on the other hand, I see why when you're walking through a burning building, it's pretty selfish to want to drag another person through that with you. Like, "Hey, my house is on fire. Do you want a tour?" You know? And
It's
they're like,
nice and crispy in there.
"So warm." And it's funny because I remember my husband, now saying to me when we first got on the phone to do the whole "I wanna make sure you're not crazy" call, which I love
Those are
that.
important.
Right, but what I love my husband tells me this now, but I'm like, "I love that you thought that you could vet someone in 15 minutes, like, whether they're nuts. Like, what kinda system do you have? Because we need to
Mhm.
bottle it and sell it." Um, that first phone call that he thought was gonna be 15 minutes ended up being 2.5 hours, and he was, like, not that interested in meeting. Like I don't know why he like actually agreed to talk to me, but he's like, "Look, I've dated a woman going through a divorce before.
Yeah.
It didn't end well. I don't really want to do this again. And there's something about you and everything and your pictures and your profile that I really really liked, but I'm not sold." and then we did end up meeting and I mean, I was sold from right from the get-go. Like, I looked at this guy and, uh, it was our chemistry was just, like, magnetic. The way that we laughed together, the way that felt so I felt like the universe was throwing me a bone for how bad things were for so long. Then I'm like, I cannot let this go. Like, if the universe is like saying, "Here you go, Andrea," I would be a fool to be like, "Well, maybe later. I'm not really hungry."
Mhm.
I was starving.
Yeah. I mean, at that point you are. You really are you are it really is a miracle. Like in you telling your story, like there are so many aspects of this that are really truly miraculous because and we've both been there. We both talked to hundreds, if not thousands of divorced women. Like we know what it's like out there. So I am very happy for you after going through so much that the universe did you a solid finally.
You need it. You deserve it. And I think the other big thing for me is here, oh my God, I'm like I could feel the tears coming out of my body. I am honored that I get to oh my God, I am honored that I get to be the kind of mommy that I didn't have.
Yeah.
Because that is the most beautiful healing journey that anybody can ask for because there is no job that is more important, no title, no bucket to be in that is more important than being a parent. And I feel I'm very proud of the work that I have done on myself to be the mommy that I'm able to be to my two little boys and help them navigate a complicated situation. And, just the other day, I was tucking my little one who's 8 into bed, and he was telling me that I am his safe space.
Wow.
And I
I can
thought,
imagine.
thank God, and I don't want my babies to know that mommy didn't have a safe space. Um, we do, we talk about a little bit of that like in bits and pieces. And, it's not my job to tell them about, the things that happen with mommy and daddy. Kids learn on their own. Kids get the score at some point. And that also is heartbreaking because on some level, like you don't want your babies to know that one of their parents is maybe not the healthiest individual, but my God, they figure that out. They figure it out faster than you think they will.
Self.
They
Can I
do.
ask you, when you became a mom, because I know for me, when I became a mom, that was really clarifying because I think for a long time, I gave my childhood a lot of passes. What was it like when you became a mom? How did you look at your childhood differently in that moment?
Well, I think that there was a lot that I blocked out from my childhood, which is, I think, why I had so many panic attacks when I was older because I skipped over uncomfy moments. So I remember having a lot of moments early on as a parent where I'm like, I don't know that I ever experienced this on either end. And then slowly these memories would come back. And I think for me, it was just like, okay, I have a gift right now. 'Cause I have the ability to break the chain and I can do things differently. And I also found it challenging and scary to give what you were never given. And I had moments where I felt angry that I didn't have a roadmap, and I felt angry that I didn't have anybody to call to ask for advice or to lean on or somebody to come over and help you fold baby clothes or talk to you about postpartum depression and anxiety. But then I also thought, Andrea, you've been doing your whole life like on your own in so many ways for so long. You can do this. And I did it. And I leaned on I leaned on shows. I think that's one of the reasons why I think you and I are both so passionate about what we do professionally, because we know how important it is to offer some guidance and a
Yeah.
safe place for people to go, because we are not the only ones. Even if you do have a mom, even if you do, and let me state for the record, I have an amazing father who has always been very supportive and very loving and has, done everything that he can do. But even if you have two healthy parents, there are people who still need more and feel lost and lonely. And it's important that they have a place where they can go and hear other stories and get some actionable things to do so that they feel like, okay, I know I'm going in the healthiest direction possible. And that's like it's important for everyone to know, is that even as a parent, when you make these mistakes, it's never too late.
Well, it's like for you, you wouldn't have even known that there was a better life out there if your friends hadn't talked about their marriages and their lives. You wouldn't have even known that it could be better.
I would not have known. And it started, when I was a little girl, I used to watch TV sitcoms to learn how to behave. And I would imitate what I saw on TV, because I thought that was real, you know? And then when I got older and started having real relationships, I would see like, oh, I don't think that what I have is so healthy. And that's tricky nowadays because we tell people now, don't look at social media. Social media is fake, and it is. And there's, everybody just posts their life highlights and not what's really going on. But when you really talk to people and you really see people's struggles and how other people resolve conflict, that for me was very different. And one of the things that I, talk about a lot now is, when you think about your partner, do you get a yummy feeling in your stomach or do you get a yucky feeling?
Yeah.
Listen to that, right? Like, that's that little flag. When you see your partner's name calling you on your phone, do you think like, "Oh my god, yay," or do you think, "Fuck
Right.
them"? Don't
I
ignore that.
And I remember too, one of the and this is gonna sound, this makes us sound like we have never like left our home in life. But when you're leaving abusive situations, this is literally like how far you have to go. I remember one of my biggest questions I started asking myself when I was rebuilding how I approached relationships after divorce. Do you like this person? Do they like you? Not like, oh, there's chemistry first. Do you like them? And do they like you? And it's like, that's how basic, like, sometimes you have to go. Cause I will even say, like, with some of the people in my community, and, there's the divorce community, but then there's also people who are married and unhappy. And you hear all these stories, and it's like, well, I can tell you guys don't even like each other. Like, it's very obvious. Like, what are you doing here?
That's scary though for people. And I think that that's a really hard thing for people to admit, because then it kind of feels like the gun pops off and you're off to the races. If I admit right now that I don't like this person, then what am I saying about my life, and what am I prepared to act on? It's easier to pretend like it's not happening, because if I admit to my girlfriends over our morning walk that, like, yeah, I'm not really happy. This isn't, well, then everyone in that circle is going to hold me accountable, and I'm
Right.
not ready to do anything. And that's one of the reasons why I think again, it's so great that we have these communities online. People can listen to your show, they can listen to my show. They don't have to talk about it. They're just in the gathering information stage. Your show is so great because it gives people that ability to see, should I make a big, scary decision, I will not be in that place forever. I will get to a happier place. It's an ending, what do they always say? That joke about marriage. Marriage is like, it's not the end of an era, it's the end of an error. Like something like that.
I think I have heard that. Yes.
Right. And like, and it doesn't mean that your marriage was always wrong. It just means that at a
Right.
certain point, it's not the healthiest choice. One of the things that I said once is, I hate when people refer to a divorce as a failed marriage. It's like one of my pet peeves because I said a failed marriage is when you forget to mail in your marriage certificate and it's not actually legal. That's a failed marriage because you attempted to get married, but you're an idiot and you failed.
Right.
Getting divorced just means that you're making a decision to be the happiest and healthiest version of yourself and for your whole family. And that means to no longer be married to this person. That's not failing, that's evolving. And we're
Yeah.
supposed to applaud that and not put people in that box of you failed.
Right. Well, as my sister put whenever I was, like, considering, like, "Do I really do this? Do I really move on?" My sister said to me, and I'm never gonna forget this, "The whole idea of you only get 1 life is real. Is this how you want the rest of your life to go? And that's something you need to decide right now." And I don't know, when you put it that way, it's like and it's real, like, losing time, losing your life to a situation where you were desperately unhappy or it's unhealthy. Now so switching gears just a little bit, we are coming up towards the end, but I do wanna loop back on this because I think this is important, and I think I'm personally invested because I had the relationship with my dad that you had with your mom in certain ways.
Mhm.
And did you ever want to, or did you ever get a chance to confront your mom about the things that had happened or to find any sort of resolution?
So I think what is important to n- um, understand for people who are navigating something similar is that you cannot have a productive conversation with somebody who's pretty mentally unwell. Um, I am at peace. I don't have any anger towards my mom whatsoever. Um, I think that my mom did the very, very best that she could given the limited resources that she had. My mom had an even worse childhood. My mom was really, really badly abused by her parents. And I think that I came to a point where I did go through a phase where attempted to have conversations that did not go well. And then you realize, the common phrase is like, you can't reason with crazy. I hate saying that because I think it's really easy. We always say that women with issues are crazy. And that kind of bugs me, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm not crazy, damn it. If
I'll
one
show
more
you.
person, I'll show you crazy. But I think that's kind of like a cheap way out, right? Um, I think that I had my moment. I had my final moment. And I was able to speak to her when she was not able to respond because she was in like a medically induced coma. This is sounding like a soap opera. And next on General Hospital. I swear this was my life. But she was not well in the hospital and I went to see her. And I didn't stand over her bed and say, "These are all the things you did wrong." I just told her that I loved her and that I know she did the very best she could and that I want nothing but for her to be at peace and okay and that I'm okay. And then I walked out of the room and obviously like started sobbing and totally lost my shit because I think I knew that that would be the last time that I would see her. And it has been, and that was a very long time ago. And I think sometimes you have to just know when you've had enough. And things don't always get better for everybody. Some people are not capable of getting better, and you have to know when are you someone has to change. In order for the situation to change, it's either going to come from you or come from them. And I know I know like we've talked, offline, like you've had moments too where you kind of had to decide, what am I going to do? Because you don't want to carry around that pain with you forever. And I
Yeah.
also think like it's tricky, right? Because I don't know that either one of us can tell people, and this is how you do it. because just like everything else, we're still figuring it out.
Yeah. I think if I were to tell someone this is where we're getting so something about Andrea's show that I really love is she always finishes with actionable takeaways. And I think we're moving right into that. Takeaways for people at rock bottom. And I think to answer your question, my actionable advice to someone is there is no prescription. There is no step one, step two, step three. What I think the prescription might be is put one foot in front of the other. Don't get stuck where you are. Like the tiniest of steps, as long as you are going somewhere and moving forward, things are going to get better for you, I think.
Yeah. I would add also that when you remain physically paralyzed, your brain will remain paralyzed. So as simple as it sounds, move your body.
Yeah.
Move your body. Go walk. Go
Yeah.
walk. I mean, even while you listen to these podcasts that I hope you all are listening to, walk. Just walk. I also think that if you have a lot of thoughts, you deserve to be sharing those thoughts with somebody who's like licensed to hear them.
Yeah.
And somebody who's an actual professional is probably going to do a better job of giving you guidance than your drunk friend, Brenda. Brendas are great for getting like skinny margaritas recipes from, but they they might just tell you what they did in their
Right.
situation, and it's not a one size fits all. You need to go to someone who knows what to when, just like how Heather said, like, I can't give you a prescription, right? Unfortunately, I think there are a lot of girlfriends out there who care about you so much, they want to give you their prescription.
Right. Which may or may not be actually helpful.
No, but it all comes from a good place because as women, we hate seeing other women suffer. We want to make it better. It's uncomfortable watching somebody at rock bottom. It's okay if you lose a lot of friends while you are in this place because it's very hard for friends to watch people suffer, and it doesn't mean that they're bad people. It's just human nature. It's hard to see. You will either get those friends back when you're better or you'll make different friends. You can't blame people for not wanting to be on your couch every night while you're unraveling. There's only so much of it that they can watch.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I think anyone who's been through a divorce or a major life change that happens. You're going to lose friends, whether just a few or a lot. And I
Yeah.
think it's easy to be like, wow, my life is even more falling apart. But I actually see that as a sign as you're getting better because these big life changes, in my view, crack you open. Like I know for me, the person I am today is not the person I maybe made friends with 10 years ago. I'm not
Totally.
I'm not the same. So I think to me, like the act of waking up, the act of getting better, you are going to lose friends, but part of that is because you are getting better and that you just may not be a fit for that person anymore. And not to take that to your point to heart or let that make you feel bad about yourself. People move on and guess what? Things end and that doesn't mean it's a bad thing.
Absolutely. I agree.
Well, thank you so much for being here today, Andrea. And thank you, everyone else, for listening. Now, where can people find you, Andrea, if they want to work with you, hear more from you?
So I think the best thing to do is check out the podcast, which is called How Not to Suck at Divorce. Again, this is for people who are thinking that maybe they want to go through a divorce or are already in the process. Take a listen. We are here to help you. You can find me on all social media outlets and Instagram, TikTok, all the places. And that's it. Just listen. Take a listen. We're here.
Yeah, and just so everyone knows too, Andrea's podcast, what I love about it is both very actionably helpful, it's very practical, but it's fun. It's fun to listen to as well, which I think you got to hit both, and Andrea does. All right, so thank you to everyone listening to the Happily Never After today, especially those who are on your own journey, and we hope you have an awesome week. See you next week.